Hello and welcome to the latest instalment of MFS's Let's Talk Property podcast, where we connect with industry experts to explore an array of topics within the dynamic world of property. Before we dive into today's episode, I just want to take a moment to share a quick disclaimer. MFS are a bridging loan and buy-to-let mortgage provider and are not financial advisors. The opinions and views expressed in this episode are personal to the host and the guests and may not reflect the views of MFS. For more information on MFS, you can find us at www.mfsuk.com and be sure to keep up with our podcast updates on Instagram at MFS_LTP. Now let's get started. Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Let's Talk Property with MFS podcast. Today we have Tom Cole from Harrington Berkley who's going to be telling us all the things about related to tax and property. So Tom, thanks for coming along and welcome. Thought we'd just dive straight in and just tell us a little bit about, tax consultancy and what you do effectively.
Well, thanks again for having me.
Brilliant.
So Harrington Berkley, we work with individuals and limited companies, helping explore tax incentives and solutions, predominantly around property.
Amazing.
So we work in stamp duty, land remediation, capital allowances.
Brilliant.
But we also work in R&D, research and development for companies creating innovative products and
Fantastic. So, do you have a lot of inquiries that you get? Are they very similar, or can it be, completely different from one client to the next?
There's a broad spectrum of clients we deal with. So, from people just purchasing property to, huge developers and investors. A lot of our clients have a varied spectrum of issues. But when we get down to it and, start to deep dive in, a lot of their solutions are very similar for what we do, but we're very focused on tailoring the
to suit the client.
Exactly.
And I suppose the R&D one's the one that we see all sorts because it doesn't just cover property; it covers a wide range of businesses that have been either creating stuff. So it could be, I was guessing, anything from a technology business to someone's created a new product maybe or something like that. Would that be the case?
I mean, it's that and everything in between. So, we're looking at brands of vodka that are doing something innovative to
brilliant.
Manufacturing, fencing. There's
a whole world of stuff that you do.
Whole world of innovation.
Oh, that's brilliant. So what would you say are the benefits of someone using a company like Harrington Berkley for their tax advice or for their tax issues?
Yeah, so Harrington Berkley, we offer what I consider a transparent and stress-free way to look into if you're due any tax relief in stamp duty wise. Also land remediation with it's a fantastic opportunity for developers who are cleaning up brownfield sites to recoup their expenditure. Yeah. And then research and development is another great opportunity for companies to
Fantastic.
Get.
I suppose the land remediation, it's always a popular one, especially for the larger site, because you could spend an absolute fortune removing contaminated sites or clearing it up and everything else like that. So I guess you're probably quite busy with that sort of stuff, along with the stamp duty and everything else. What would you say are the common mistakes property owners make when dealing with tax on their property?
Well, of course, Mark, from my point of view, it's going to be not researching the tax reliefs available. I think it's always important to do due diligence, see what's available to you, and then, if necessary, get in touch with specialists like ourselves. Yeah,
to sort of find out whether it will suit what they're looking to do or what they're looking to achieve. So, I mean, look, you obviously work with a broad spectrum of clients, from probably your normal single investor to large developers. So what's your average type of client and sort of split? Is it mostly the property side, or is it 50-50 with the R&D, would you say?
Currently, because we offer more property services, I'd say slightly more on the property side, but R&D is building up as we're going along. Yeah,
and I think as well, where more people are becoming aware of R&D than ever. So if you asked someone 5-6 years ago maybe about R&D, not many people would know about it. Absolutely. But obviously where I work within property and work with companies like yourself over the years, we see more people looking at R&D more so than we ever would do at the moment. So you and me, we're both salesmen at the end of the day.
That's it.
And obviously maintaining relationships is one of the key parts of our jobs. How do you generally tend to maintain relationships with your clients? Do you regularly keep them updated on new products? Do you regularly go meet them? How do you generally tend to work it?
So For us, I feel word of mouth and referrals are a huge part of generating our business. I'm also very keen to be out and about networking. I always approach networking as, despite, as you say, being a salesman, I always go in seeing how I can be of service.
Yeah.
I feel that people can tell when our values align, and I believe we generate our business by doing what we do incredibly well, and then this carries a nice gravitas for word of mouth.
Yeah, I generally tend to find with a lot of things, word of mouth is always the biggest key pusher, and that was sort of leading on to my next question about, how you generate clients. You do a lot of marketing, or is it mostly the word of mouth, or like me, you attend a lot of the networking events as well?
Yeah.
You still finding people, even professional people, like, I never knew about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's sometimes surprising to be, in a massive boardroom with incredibly experienced people, and that they've never heard of land remediation relief before. So.
It's fascinating. I suppose as well, you probably have a lot of people, I don't know if you can tell with a lot of people that have an accountant that will do something very basic. Obviously you guys do a bit more of a deep dive, and there's more moving parts that you guys work with. Do you find a lot of people now sort of moving away from their accountants towards specialists like you that can do it better, in want of a better term?
I feel with accountants, we just tack on service to what they offer. We add the extra
expertise,
deep dive to the problem that an accountant might not cover.
Yeah. So would your approach to a client, when someone comes through the door, is the approach for a resident, if they're looking at resi or commercial, is it different? Because I know obviously you have, on the commercial aspect, you have more of the capital allowances side of things, and the resi, it's more focused on the stamp duty. Do they sort of go for a similar process, or?
I mean, the process is similar. Our values are to tailor our service for each client, work out what their end goals are, and work towards that together. Yeah.
And then I suppose, going back to the accountant side of things, you probably have to work alongside clients' accountants when doing stuff, or do they not need to use their accountants sometimes?
The main communication we have with accountants is through the documents that we require to do our research and begin the cases.
Okay. I'd just like to sort of touch maybe a bit on what you guys look for when assessing a stamp duty claim. I know I've got a limited idea of what it is, but say we've got we'll just call it a nice resi apartment in central London. It's got a load of facilities, your swimming pools, your gyms and stuff like that. Would you take that into account when you're looking at the stamp duty, or how do you guys generally tend to work it?
With the stamp duty, there's four main reliefs that we can look into, which would be the multiple dwelling, mixed dwelling, the uninhabitable, and we also do grouping stamp duty relief. So again, every case is varied.
Case by case, very similar to what we do at MFS. There's no real strict one size fits all criteria, because obviously same for us and you, every case is different. No two cases are really the same. But yeah, that's very, very, very interesting. And then you mentioned uninhabitable properties there. I suppose you're probably quite busy with that, because a lot of people have been looking at properties which are uninhabitable, obviously, to try and maximise their profits. You're seeing a lot more people come to you with those types of properties?
Right, it's funny you say that, because it's in the time I've been working with the company, and obviously the networking I've been doing seems to be a huge uptake in people buying property, and as you say, particularly with a BRR strategy in mind. So
we see a lot of that as well now, I think, because obviously interest rates are where they are, the market's where it is, so people are looking to try and add any sort of value they can. Just quickly on the capital allowance side of things, because obviously there's a lot of people, I suppose you're seeing a big uptake in people purchasing commercial assets now. Is that part of your business, would you say, is expanding with more people moving into the commercial sector? And
I'd say our capital allowance has been a steady
rate. Okay, fantastic. So how would you say the company's been affected by recent economic factors with Trustonomics and everything else going on? Would you say it's kept you still, because a lot of people are still transacting and still buying, right? So would you say you were still just as busy as you were before everything went?
I'd say with current economic climate, when people are feeling the pinch a little, I feel that expenditure becomes a lot more of a focus.
Yeah.
So
every penny counts, doesn't it? Especially if you've got a high interest rate, you've got work to do on the property, and everything else like that.
And on the other side of the coin, economic moments like this are also, to some people, fantastic opportunities to start generating extra income.
Yeah, I think you find you get sort of two types of people. The ones that will transact no matter where the market is. All that happens is their strategy will change. Maybe the type of asset they'll change. Maybe they move from just buying single yet units to HMOs and things like that. And obviously stuff like that keeps you're very busy.
Absolutely.
And it's always nice to hear people being busy. And it's always, for me, I've known about stamp duty relief and all these things for quite some time. It's a tool that I've used personally, and it's nice to see more people know about it, because again, if you haven't got to pay for something, or you haven't, if there's a way of saving money, it's always worth looking at. And I think it's always something that no one's truly known about, but now we see it more so in most people buying properties these days.
Absolutely. And as you say, as a tool, it can, particularly if you're a commercial property buyer, it can make a huge difference to the property value. And, as a case study, if you're buying a property for a buy-to-let and there's money due to you, you can then inject that cash back into the business.
Into the business. Yeah. So, do you think there are any trends or developments you'll think we'll see over the next 12 months with regards to property and tax?
Yeah, as we said, the current climate is I've seen a lot of people. A huge uprise in people going into property, particularly around property flips, and also a lot of focus on serviced accommodation and HMOs. And I imagine the trend will continue like that for quite some time.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you on that. We still see a lot of people looking at the HMO space. A lot of people that wouldn't normally do it last year have had to move into that space to make the numbers work, and now they're seeing over the course of this year that it's actually quite successful. You can make some decent money from it. Yeah. So that's definitely something that I think we're going to see a lot of. I think as well we might see more in student accommodation. That seems to be a popular one people seem to be talking about at the moment. So I think
we've been working with some people doing student accommodation. And it seems to be going from strength to strength.
I think you'll be busy with that, because like I said, a lot of people just change their strategies to see what they can do. So before we go, we generally tend to ask a quick fire round, and I appreciate you can't give tax advice, but as a BDM, what 3 tips would you give to someone aspiring to work in a role similar to yours, or someone that's looking to maybe move into this industry? What sort of advice would you give them?
A really good question. So number 1, I'd say never stop educating yourself. Always be learning.
Always,
and on that same note, keep humble. Listen more than you talk. Generally, it's always a good thing. And number 2, build your network. Go into networking events. Look how you can help people, because people can see when you're genuinely out there to help. And I think people can tell when your goals align in that respect. And lastly, I do think a flexible way of thinking. Build a structure to your way of working. See what works, what doesn't work. I had an old boss who was, somewhat of a mentor to me. He said, what gets measured gets achieved, and that always stuck with me.
Yeah.
Always keep what you're doing, your structure, have it measured. Your KPIs, what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah. So I think you're very similar to sort of the way I like to operate as well, where I have a set sort of strategy that I like to use, and then I evaluate it every single month and think, right, if we tweak this or we'll tweak that, what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. And I think it's always evolving, and then obviously the education's a very key part for that, because if you're speaking to someone and you're offering them a solution, you need to fully understand the depths of what you're doing, right? And networking, some are good, some are bad. It's typical, it's like the old analogy, you've got to kiss a few frogs. But I've generally, even to this day, I've been networking constantly for 10 years. I probably still attend 1 or 2, maybe a week, depends what's going on. Some of them I'll get some amazing stuff from, some of them not so much. But I think it's something you've just got to be persistent with. And then a lot of the events are regular as well, so people see you there on a regular basis.
When you become a familiar face, that's a fantastic.
And that's the way to be. Yeah. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on today. We've had an amazing time filming it, and it's really nice to hear your perspective on the property market, the tax side of things, and I will certainly be watching what you and the rest of the team are up to, and I think we may have to have a conversation later as well.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot. Pleasure to meet you. Thanks.
Amazing. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, like and share. You can access our previous episodes in all the usual places, as well as on our website at www.mfsuk.com/podcast. You can also stay connected with us on Instagram at MFS_LTP. See you next time.